For decades, Western foreign policy has operated on the assumption of permanent unipolar dominance, backed by hundreds of billions of dollars in annual defense spending. To maintain this posture, the United States and its partners have established a sprawling network of global commitments, sustaining transatlantic alliances that span the globe. Recently, this footprint has expanded through the doctrine of integrated deterrence, pushing into the Indo-Pacific through multi-nation defense pacts like AUKUS. These doctrines create a geopolitical ledger of ambitions, a set of massive diplomatic and military checks that the physical state is expected to cash. We now call this the Primacy Gap. Behind the expansive diplomatic blueprints lies an undeniable structural crisis in physical throughput. Concrete evidence of this crisis is visible in the defense sector, where submarine builds are severely delayed and supply chains remain backlogged. While the state attempts to project power overseas, domestic infrastructure is failing. Transit hubs are crumbling, and regional power grids face widening investment deficits. The world's greatest economic powers have lost the sovereign capability to build the materials required to sustain their global reach. This decline began with a deliberate policy shift in the late 20th century, moving away from industrial production in favor of financial management. Deregulation and corporate share buybacks became the priority, often at the direct expense of reinvestment in physical infrastructure. This shift led to the massive offshoring of industrial production. While speculative financial asset growth soared, actual manufacturing output plummeted. As the lines diverged, capital accumulation effectively decoupled from actual physical production. This destroyed the sovereign manufacturing capacity needed to produce basic consumer goods and sustain military logistics. Prioritizing abstract wealth over physical infrastructure enriched corporate elites, but it hollowed out the state's strategic power. This is the logic of financialisation. This industrial decay was not an inevitability. Other modern systems have prioritized physical industrial output over abstract asset growth. In this competing model, the state retains control over the commanding heights of the economy, including steel production, energy distribution, and transport. By directing long-term credit into physical infrastructure rather than speculative markets, these systems have achieved tangible results in domestic connectivity. While Western capital chased tech monopolies and real estate, this model built absolute dominance in critical sectors. Today, the vast majority of the world's shipbuilding occurs outside the West. These results suggest that long-term strategic strength is heavily dependent on physical industrial capacity. Financial speculation alone cannot build naval fleets or modernize energy grids. This is the result of state-directed capitalism. The international system has already begun to adapt to this shift, moving away from Western unipolarity. Across the Global South, nations are forming alternative economic coalitions to secure their own strategic autonomy. This bloc now commands over 41% of global GDP by purchasing power parity, surpassing the aggregate output of the G7. These nations are actively building parallel financial systems and local currency networks to bypass Western dominance. This creates a strategic paradox. It is difficult to deter peer adversaries who no longer rely on your financial system and who control the supply chains you depend on. This is the reality of multipolarity. To adapt, Western nations require a fundamental redesign of statecraft that moves beyond the illusion of global military projection. The first pillar is strategic restraint, stepping back from imperial overextension and ending decades of military interventionism. The second pillar is the reallocation of hundreds of billions of dollars towards rebuilding domestic industrial capacity and repairing internal social cohesion. Finally, the third pillar requires abandoning ad hoc rules in favor of re-anchoring global relations strictly in universal multilateral law and the UN Charter. By focusing on industrial self-reliance and domestic repair, Western nations can transition toward a sustainable form of statecraft suited for a multipolar world.